stand of the law. The city goes on to say we are united in our support for our community and wait.
So this is Bill at WWP Reacts, and we got to react to this now. What's going on in Minneapolis? We're going to go right over to Channel 9, Fox 9, over there, and listen to the bullshit that's being spewed about this quote constitutional observer bitch who tried to run down an ICE agent, a federal ICE agent. That's like killing an American soldier. She tried to kill him. He killed her. Thank God. Let's watch this. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Let me get so you can see it. This is ridiculous.
Community, and that is the end of this joint statement from the Minneapolis City Council. So again, we now have the age, the race, and the name of this woman, which is Renee Nicole Good. And we have been waiting for this information, Randy and Kelsey, pretty much all day today.
And when they say one of our neighbors, we don't exactly know exactly where she is living, but we do know that she presumably is in Minneapolis at this point.
Retired Army officer.
Simone, thank you. Please continue to watch that stuff from there. I know you're getting information from Edge all the time, so we appreciate you joining us.
But I didn't.
All right, we want to go out to Leon Probst, who's been out at the scene. We know that there's a memorial that's growing. So Leon, if you could talk a little bit about the memorial that's been growing there at the scene, and then it looks like a very large crowd is gathering behind you. So just give us a sense of what's happening there.
Well, Kelsey and Randy, just take a look down over here. You see the memorial.
I'm having some ramen at the same time. I can't deal with this.
Renee Nicole Good. Sorry about that. Renee Nicole Good. The memorial there. But Randy, Kelsey, we'll throw it back to you, okay?
Well, I haven't really looked on my
All right, Leon, there on the scene. And again, as we showed you at the top of this hour, that growing memorial outside that area of East 34th and Portland Avenue, Minneapolis, where the shooting occurred at about 9:30 this morning.
Right. And so we'll continue to monitor and stay on the air with any developments that happen. We've been on the air since early this morning since this happened. And we know that at 5 o'clock, we're expecting an update from Christy Noem, and then also this candlelight vigil. This is a live picture of the vigil that is forming there. There are flowers across. Candles are being put in the snow there. And this is a developing situation because there's the reaction, there's the community reaction that you see, and we expect that will continue to grow. We're learning more about the victim, and then we're slowly getting more information about the investigation, which will take a lot of time. Any officer involved shooting the investigation takes months.
Doing anything they're not supposed to do.
While that information is not coming in quickly and won't come in quickly, we are seeing a lot of reaction to what happened today.
Well, this will be a massive investigation because it does have far-reaching implications. Obviously, as many of you out there know, these types of ICE ramp-ups have occurred in other cities throughout the country as well, Chicago being one, Washington, D.C. being another, and there are others that are allegedly on the list that the administration would like to do the same for. Minneapolis was brought to the forefront with all the fraud allegations that occurred in the last several weeks, which is the primary reason, according both to the federal government and state government, why so many agents are here at this point. Historic number of agents, by the way, as of yesterday, more than 2,000. But what happens here was feared to have happened here was feared to have potentially happen in any one of these cities over the course of the last several weeks as the temperature ramps up between ICE agents and those in the local communities who do not want them there.
And I can say I was working during the detention of 2 people at a site in Chanhassen a little over a month ago. Maybe it wasn't even a month ago, but it was in December. And the longer these go on, the more volatile it becomes because people are sharing their location on social media. More people arrive. And in that situation, there were 2 men who were in the rafters of a home that was under construction, and they were refusing to come down. So it lasted for several hours. And in that time, the crowd continued to build and build. And then it became I felt like it became very volatile because the crowd's pushing in, the agents are pushing back, they're ready to deploy pepper spray, and eventually those agents just left the scene. One of the men had come down, the other was still up there, and I think they determined that probably it wasn't safe anymore for the agents, and they just needed to leave that area. So we don't know what it was like this morning before this happened, but afterwards there were crowds that continued to gather after the shooting, and then there was pepper spray that was deployed as they tried to get their vehicles out of there. And tonight we're continuing to watch people come to the site and put down flowers. They're putting candles down by this cross. Again, the victim, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, and we are trying to learn more about who she was. And we've been told that she was an observer there, which is perfectly legal. And we've done stories. In fact, there was one last night from groups that try to educate the public on their rights and how they can safely and peacefully be a constitutional observer at one of these sites, where you can stand, what you're legally allowed to do in public with a camera.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, as much as you can try to instruct people, there are always people who do not adhere to that, and that did happen this morning, and it happens almost every time, and those are the challenges that not only state and local government have with reminding people what are their legal rights, reminding people what your constitutional rights are, and also towing a line that is legal and keeps them safe. That's the situation that unfolded this morning. And I know that people have contacted me already this afternoon wondering if it's going to go bad tonight. Obviously, we are hypersensitive in this city when something like this happens, unfortunately. What is the ending result with activists, outside agitators, and others who just want to let their feelings be known? I can tell you that the Minnesota State Patrol has mobilized 85 members of its mobile response team to support law enforcement efforts here in the Twin Cities. National Guard remains, as Kelsey said, on standby and prepared to deploy if needed to assist with public safety and emergency response operations. A couple hours ago, the governor made this statement. He said our top priority is keeping Minnesotans safe. State and local leaders are taking every step to support law enforcement and protect residents, and state resources have been deployed to ensure our neighborhoods remain safe. He is referring directly to the public's response to what happened early this morning. He says we have repeatedly warned that this federal mobilization was putting residents at risk. I encourage Minnesotans to remain calm. This is important. He reiterated this several times this morning. He wants people to understand that the only way that this can go forward is if people remain calm. He says this mobilization was about putting on a show from the beginning. Let's not give them a show. He is then, I mean, he's saying, don't give them violent protests. Don't demonstrate beyond the bounds of what is constitutionally legal. And do not give them a reason to mobilize even more officers and agents to the Twin Cities.
And just to give you some background, too, on the presence of ICE agents in the last couple of days, it was a big ramp up. We were told historic, and that there were 2,000 agents that were deployed to the Twin Cities. Roughly 3/4 of the enforcement personnel are expected to come from ICE's enforcement and removal operations. That's the force that carries out the immigration arrests and deportations. And then there's another group of agents from Homeland Security investigations, and they typically focus on fraud and cross-border criminal networks. So those HSI agents were also going door to door in the Twin Cities, according to Homeland Security, investigating allegations of fraud, which you've probably heard about the allegations of fraud and the questions about situations like Feeding Our Future, where we've seen a number of defendants go to prison and go through the court system for a child nutrition program where people receive millions of dollars and they were not feeding children. This was a COVID era, pandemic era program where money was taken from the government. So that's the background on the ramp up of the ICE agents. And then As a result, there's a network of people that will gather when they hear that ICE is at a home or a business, and they will record what's happening, which is perfectly legal to do because there are questions about whether or not things are being carried out properly and whether or not things are being carried out legally for those who are being detained.
And many people just want to feel like they're doing something, which is important as well. We should also remind our viewers the catalyst this morning was a targeted arrest in that neighborhood. We do not know the details of that. We don't even know if the arrest was ever made. At least I don't know. I haven't heard whether or not that original arrest was made. But in this particular case this morning, the catalyst was a targeted arrest of a wanted individual somewhere in that neighborhood, and that was what precipitated this event happening with that fatal shooting this morning. Mike Manzoni is also out on the scene. He's been out there most of the day as well, as have all of our reporters. Mike, the sense, I mean, the concern, and you could hear it in the governor's voice a couple hours ago, the concern is that people will go beyond the bounds of peaceful demonstrations and peaceful reactions to what happened this morning. What's your sense for the sentiment where you are?
A couple of hours ago, just before they towed the vehicles involved in the shooting this morning, it was a very tense atmosphere, as you might expect. There were dozens, probably hundreds of demonstrators lining the street here near Portland and 34th Street, shouting at law enforcement officers, recording them, asking them to leave, asking them questions about whether they had, in fact, arrested or identified the person who shot that woman, 37-year-old Nicole Good. They, for the most part, were not engaging with the demonstrators, just more or less ignoring them, going about, the work that they were doing. And then as we watched those vehicles get towed away, they started to move out. Police started to kind of move along and move out of the area, kind of clear the scene. And they started throwing snowballs at them, shouting at them. And then things kind of quieted down for a bit. But within the last maybe 30 minutes or so, crowds have started to kind of gather again. This is near the scene of the shooting, basically the area where you're looking at, where those crowds are gathered. That's near the area where this kind of all went down earlier today. Those cars now gone. Civilians, it appears, have blocked off either side of Portland Avenue between, looks like maybe 34th and 33rd Streets. And the atmosphere, the mood, I would say, has kind of quieted down. There are maybe just as many, if not more, people than earlier out here. But you don't really hear the shouting, at least not as much. The kind of tense back and forth between the demonstrators and the law enforcement officers. And that's primarily because ICE, as I think we've reported, left here hours ago. And then it was just BCA police, state patrol we saw out here, as well as, of course, Minneapolis police. But not as the law enforcement presence isn't as noticeable. Now, this is primarily demonstrators. You do hear them break out into chants against ICE every now and then. They were also mentioning the victim's name, Renee Nicole Good. You can hear them chanting now, many of them holding signs, but the atmosphere has quieted down, chanting, but not nearly as tense as it was earlier in the afternoon.
Good. I hope it doesn't go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. I mean, Kelsey and I were talking about this, and that is that in many cases they have some place to demonstrate other than the scene. They will march to City Hall or something. In this particular case, local law enforcement really has nothing to do with this except to keep the peace on site if necessary. So there's nowhere for them to go, nowhere really for them to congregate except at the scene. Mm-hmm. We also have an aerial. Mike, thank you so much. Please stay tuned.
Nowhere to go, nowhere to come.
Your insight. Thank you for those details. Can we
go
to the sky now? There it is.
Go enjoy your family.
So this is an aerial view of the crowd that's gathering there at 34th and Portland in Minneapolis. They're at the scene of what happened 9:30 this morning. This ICE agent involved shooting a woman, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, shot in her vehicle as she was leaving this scene of this ICE action that was happening this morning. And so we want to show the videos again that we've obtained here. One that shows from the front, you see the vehicle coming toward you, and then a video that we've obtained that shows from behind as the vehicle is leaving the scene. So this is the front. You see the ICE agents coming down the street. And
look in the upper left-hand corner.
They'll encounter the burgundy colored SUV in the street.
They tell to get the hell out
You hear
of the way.
some commands.
Okay, now middle of your screen, there's the vehicle. Shots are fired.
And hits that officer. You missed that. There you go.
That's where she crashed.
Yeah. So, and there's no sound with this particular video, but we will show the other one from the other perspective. And at one point, you do hear an agent come up to the door and say, "Get out of the car." But then there's another agent that comes to the front of the car too, and then you just see the car start to move. And so, and if Natalie, if we can show that other perspective, yes, we're going to get that queued up so you can see that, because we expect Kristi Noem. Okay, we expect Kristi Noem to be speaking in 10, 15, 20 minutes, and when she does, we'll take that live. So we want to make sure that you have a chance to see this video if you're just joining us, so you can get some perspective. Let's go ahead and show the other side of that.
Hey, like and share, tell your friends about it. Come over here and let's watch it. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. You know, she hit the guy.
It's really hard to see there. You see a couple officers next to the vehicle. There is one officer in the front of the vehicle. When I say in the front,
if you don't agree,
it's really the front driver's side bumper area. It is in front, but it is the bumper area. And as that vehicle passes through him, it does, we believe, we've been told, does make contact with him. He doesn't seem to have, it doesn't seem to have knocked him down again, but we don't have full perspective, but that does seem to be the case. But it is right, he is right in front of it. We also believe that is the officer that fired his weapon, the one that was directly in front of the vehicle. Again, very hard for our viewers to see because it's just an instant where you see another officer off that front bumper of the driver's side.
It was that front driver's side headlight. When we watched it sort of frame by frame, you could see that officer come into frame, and then it looked like that's obviously where the shots came from. And so we have some reaction from the President of the United States today, local law enforcement, the mayor of the city of Minneapolis as well. And this is the President's statement after viewing the video where you see the car coming towards you. I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, and again, he's speaking about the one clip that we showed you first, it is hard to believe he is alive, but he is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. And then at the end of the statement says they are just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate. And Kristi Noem's statement is very similar. She called it an act of domestic terrorism. And again, these videos need to be evaluated. We did not see any officers on the pavement after watching several videos from people who were there at the scene.
Yeah, and we're no experts on those kind of incident evaluations. That's not our perspective. All we can do is give you a perspective of it as we have it, and we will give you everything we have. And then it'll be up to law enforcement, not just the federal investigators. State and local government has been very adamant that they want to play a significant role in this investigation as well. And apparently they will. We do know that the local FBI, along with Minneapolis police and the BCA, are all now cooperating on this investigation. Undoubtedly, because they are federal agents, there will be a federal presence on that investigation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And here, the governor has already said that the FBI and BCA are working jointly. Our local law enforcement agencies they're not working in conjunction with ICE. They do show up at scenes like this when they do want to monitor public safety and crowd control, and that is their perspective, is keeping people safe in neighborhoods and monitoring that crowd for any potential violence.
You may be wondering what we know about 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. We know nothing other than that she is being described as a Minneapolis resident, a neighbor. Other than that, we do not know anything. Earlier, it was described. She was described before identified. The victim was described as a constitutional observer, someone who was there.
If you don't join in, you listen to it
later.
Later. Thank you.
And often with cell phones, recording the operations of federal agents. But other than that, we do not know. We don't know the context of why she was there other than that.
And we're working to try to get more information about her and just what preceded all of this, because it happened so quickly. Because when you watch those videos, we're talking a matter of seconds. And so we're trying to get as much information as we possibly can before you see that video start. What was the scene like? What was happening? Where was she in conjunction with where the detention was happening in this ICE situation that was unfolding, and what were the commands at the time? It's very loud when you listen to a lot of the videos with sound on them. The scene is very loud because there's a large crowd that's gathering. So the people who are shooting those videos are too far away to hear what may have been taking place between the agents and the woman in the car. And so those are all things that have to be independently evaluated as part of this this investigation.
And there is a high level of tragic irony in this as well. It was just last night on Fox 9, Maury Glover did a lengthy piece on this constitutional observer philosophy. There was a group that were training Minneapolis residents and others on how to peacefully, safely observe these types of operations, these types of events, record these events, but do it lawfully and peacefully. And then just this morning, we see, and you know, this person, if what we're being told and what we're hearing is accurate, was a constitutional observer, or described as one anyway, and she lost her life in that process. In Governor Walz's words, when he talked to us briefly before, he said this was totally predictable and totally avoidable. In his words.
He said a number of times as the ICE presence increased that he was worried about violence and that people would be hurt in all of this, because they do become it becomes a volatile scene when you bring in the ICE presence and the protesters combined. The two groups, there's just a lot of tension that exists between the two groups when these ICE detentions are being carried out.
You know,
I should let you know that allegedly in about 4 minutes or so, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is supposed to take to a podium and give us a brief statement regarding this as well. She did in Texas. There's a shot of where she will be. Natalie, do we know where this is taking place? I know they were trying to keep it under wraps as best they could. Okay, yeah, we don't know exactly.